G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Ukraine war update for the 31st of August 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The ProWritingAid, Power Games, Into the Earthbound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 available now. All my links are in the link tree, which you can find in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Now, the BBC has reported a massive drone and missile attack on Ukraine, which they said was devastating and massive, attacking 14 regions. But then we go to Al Jazeera and Ukraine says, no, there were 500, we shot down 510 of the 537 drones, and we took out 38 of the 45 missiles, and they only attacked civilians. They only attacked houses, we tell you, school children. They hit this. Now, the hardest hit was Dnipro and Polivad. Now, Ukrainian shelling has left people without power in Kursk. There was a number of cross-border attacks. However, most of them haven't been reported by the mainstream media, but Russia has shot down 233 Ukrainian drones, a guided bomb, and 4 missiles in the last 24 hours, according to TASS. Indian Prime Minister has chimed in with a phone call to Zelensky, confirming his support for a peaceful settlement in Ukraine and wants all efforts to restore peace. Well, if you want all efforts to restore peace, you tell Zelensky to sign the 2022 peace agreement and stop being a little bitch and attacking Russian gas and oil facilities to manipulate the market price, allegedly. But Europe is hearing none of that. They want to steal Russian assets, just like they wanted to steal Germans' assets back in 1939, provoking war. Not saying there wasn't a false flag, but people forget. Germany wasn't the only one who invaded Poland. And why was America saying they're all for peace while selling arms to China and Japan? Or building warships? Yeah. Everybody talks, but remember, deeds reveal beliefs. Your actions are your beliefs, not your words. Yeah. Here we have the Ukrainian map from Ukraine with Zelensky saying, Russians have lost soldiers, their greatest losses ever. We will be in Moscow tomorrow. They haven't realized any of their strategic goals and will continue to win, my friends. Winning, we're winning. Who's his friends? Where are his friends, Zelensky? Are they in the room with us right now? These losses, where are they? The Russians are losing on the Russians are losing, says Himmler. I mean Zelensky. Goebbels is telling us they're winning the war. Explosions all across the front line, but mostly here artillery exchanges in the north and along the buffer zone without any advancements. No advancements here, though there are battles. Now this is weird. There's been no indication. All of a sudden, they've redrawn the map that Russia's withdrawn from Kupiansk. That is weird, because there's no articles on it. We'll take it at their word. We'll take the map at the face value and just move on, because Russia's done this before. No Ukrainian counteroffensive. Again, how many times have I said Russia's done this before? And I've said every time, it's clear they don't want Kupiansk. Okay, they keep withdrawing from Kupiansk after attacking it. But again, that's because they keep luring thousands of Ukrainians there to defend it. Which means they're going after somewhere else. Now, there's fighting here, but the Russians are marked as back here, so, there's fighting all along this front, but not really. There are some gains, as you can see, but not many. They're still, fighting up. They're fighting up to here. They're still, still haven't advanced here, but they're still, they're basically consolidating their positions and to bring up artillery onto Kovinska. Still fighting along the front here in the north. A little bit of movement, not much on the map. Little bit of movement, but not much. Fighting in Povosk, Novovinci. Clearly, this is what Zelensky's talking about, the fact that Russia hasn't taken a town today. So he's crowing like the proverbial cock that he is. Always with the propaganda, always with the chest beating. Real men don't brag, Zelensky. But you're not a real man, are you? You're a mouse who hides behind others and murder your opponents because you're a coward. But there are advances, just not that big. But the main part is, where are the Ukrainian offences continuing to push back the Russians? Do you see any? This is a pro-Ukrainian map. Where's all their offences? Where are they pushing back the Russians? Where are their huge losses? Where are they? So they have one little tick on a map and they suddenly feel like intervening. So this is 1944 all over again. Alright, Trump has confirmed that the US will no longer spend funds on aid to Kiev. Obviously, he's had a little victory and a little cost-cutting done. He's got NATO to spend more money on itself rather than the US pay the bills. Now, part of the security guarantees apparently is going to be private military corporations. They will be building fortifications and new military bases, as well as safeguarding US business interests in Ukraine. They're in talks, US President Trump is in talks with Europe about this and how it will provide Ukraine with security, according to the Daily Telegraph. These will assist Ukraine instead of active US troops. Russia has taken out another Ukrainian, allegedly. Now, I say allegedly because there are many in Ukraine who have been murdered by their fellow Ukrainians, particularly in Lviv, the hotbed of neo-Nazi activity in Ukraine, and many neo-Nazis and former neo-Nazis and various other groups have clashed before. Of course, Zelensky always blames Russia. Russia may or may not have claimed responsibility, but so far, no. I wouldn't call them far right, because if you look at the proper index, geopolitical index, right, freedom, left, collectivism, with the authoritarian line, and everything below the authoritarian line is authoritarianism, and everything is in the negative scores for authoritarianism, and everything above that line is positive for freedom index. So basically he's on the left, what I'm saying. He's just right of Marx on the collective, right? If you look at property index, yes, they're right of Marx on the property index, but that's the only time they're right of Marx. Everywhere else, they align with Marx. National Socialism is just a stage of socialism. It is not socialism. It's just a stage, right? It's just a brand, like fascism, just like people are gullible if they continue with this idea that the National Socialists are anything other than socialists on the left. They're still left of centre. Okay, so he's got a long history of politics and political activism. Sources suggest that it was internal rivalries, that he was a street organizer, and he was a victim of the unrest in Ukraine. Some speculated it was possible retribution for Maidan, but Moscow hasn't commented on this. But the suggestion, however, is that it was political, and I said this before, as regimes crumble, the only way off the battlefield is to kill your boss and take his place. The only way to affect change in a non-democracy is to kill your opponents, right? If you can't unelect somebody, yes, somebody will get frustrated enough. If this is the safety valve of democracy, that if Ukraine was a democracy, people wouldn't be so compelled to commit acts they would otherwise dismiss, because eventually, it doesn't matter if it's, you look at the collapse, right? Ukraine has collapsed many times. The only thing holding them up is Europe, and the only reason why Europe is holding them up is the war against Russia. Without the war against Russia, and Europe is going to collapse. France is on the verge of financial collapse. Germany is on the verge of financial collapse. Their aid packages have gone from billions down to millions. Now, of course, this all could be misinformation in order to mislead Russia. And Russia isn't acting as if Europe is collapsing. Why would they lie if Russia knows the truth? Because it's the people they want to deceive. Right? The 1920s, the economy only shrunk by 6%. There was no need to shut it down. There was a big lie by Roosevelt in order to prepare America for World War II, because they need a large number of people to dispose of. Because he hated white people, just like Zelensky collapsed the Ukrainian economy, so he has a large number of unemployed white people, which nobody would care about and get rid of. Now, this is why I think he was probably assassinated. People who lost loved ones in the Ukrainian civil war are taking it out on the extremists. Because without the extremists, see, Without these extremists, there would be no war. And Porkchop here probably is only a neo because he's a pork chop, right? If he had real friends, if he wasn't a despicable human being, and that's all, you are the company you keep, okay? Doesn't matter how clean-cut Zelensky presents himself. He is the company he keeps, okay? Don't care how many people tell me. I don't care how many times you tell me that Zelensky's a Jew, okay? So was Anton Drexler. Okay? So were many others who donned the black in 19 armbands. My grandmother was in the Netherlands, and you know what the Stalinists and the Leninists and the socialists and all the other despicable people did? Heck, even people in prisons, murderers, would put on the black armband when the Nazis came to curry favour, because nothing is more pleasurable to a criminal than putting their boot on someone's neck. They live for it. And Zelensky has done that. And I don't care how sweet he talks, how much he complains that he was invaded. Iraq was invaded. Syria was invaded. Everybody's been invaded. Doesn't make you a victimhood, doesn't make you a good person. This oppression narrative is a lie by Marxists who exploit the gullible, the weak. Emotional people are weak and gullible. They do not process logically or in depth. They do not understand or admit to or even engage in critical analysis. The truth means nothing to them. They only care about their emotions. They only care about getting their way. Don't forget, weak people want to put the boot on your neck. There's nothing more pleasurable to criminals than to put the boot on their neck. You look at the emotional, you look at Democrats, you look at weak people. Taking drugs doesn't make you weak, but the choices they make, knowingly taking dangerous substances because it makes them feel good, that's weakness. You know they're dangerous. And you know once you take them, you are hooked. But they don't care. They'll cope by saying, oh, I'm in control. I can give up any time, they would say. Weak people lie. Weak people will steal. Weak people will do anything for power. And weak people will always engage in smear campaigns because the truth is and anybody, there's two things they can't stand in this world. They cannot stand anybody who leaves the party, and they cannot stand anybody who exposes the party. Because in their weak little world, the party is always right. US President has committed himself to getting Putin and Vladimir to have a meeting. If they won't meet separately, that he's going to hold a trilateral meeting. He has not ruled out a bilateral meeting, but he's stressed it should be a part of the process. That he spoke with the Daily Caller, doesn't know when it will happen, but he's trying to make it happen. And people are obviously standing in the way. that they don't want peace. Didn't say that Russia doesn't want peace. Though the reaction is that Europe doesn't want peace. That Zelensky has said no to everything, according to Lavrov. And Trump has acknowledged this. There's so many things going on in the world right now. You think Germany would want less worries, not more. But remember, the weak people love chaos because they can always point to the chaos and blame somebody. And their fellow weak people will believe the party narrative. Yes, it's capitalism that's failing, my friends. No, sabotage is not failure. In their eyes, though, they say, oh, but if it can be destroyed, it must be weak. You know, we are strong because we can destroy. You know, that's what it is. It comes down to weak people beating their chest. But eventually, what does evil do? It consumes itself. It destroys itself. They're not destroying capitalism, because capitalism is an idea. It's not just an idea, sorry. It is recognition. People always come to the conclusion that capitalism is right. That you cannot... It's amazing how they'll talk about the separation of church and state, but not of unions, which is capital. Capital and state must be separate. If you marry all three... Yes, I know, I'm a hypocrite. In my books, I write about a state that thrives, but it's fiction. Okay, you can have a thriving authoritarian state. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if you want a free state, you cannot have capital monopolized. And even in my book, I acknowledge that capitalism monopolized by the state. That the authoritarian state recognizes limited freedom to be in the middle, right? People always seem to gravitate towards one aspect of something, and they don't see in my books that it's not a one-party state. It is 7 cooperating parties, or 13 if you count the small minor states, and they don't own 100% of the capital between them. They only own, well, they own over half, but they don't own it all. And that their primary conflict is trying to maintain the balance between people's desires and reality. And once you understand that, then you understand maybe, just maybe, that absolutism is the problem. Right? If you have too much power in one hand, when that one hand becomes frail, elderly, makes a mistake, there's no balance. So it spirals out of control. Now, Russia's attacked the Ukrainian port. They've made multiple attacks. Now, apparently the Ukrainian armed forces have a NASAMS in the area, but it wasn't obviously helpful. They targeted it with unmanned aerial vehicles and missiles. Now, there are multiple battles going on with multiple losses across the battlefield being reported. Yet, Ukraine seems to crow and beat its chest, and people are not calling out the Zelensky for lying. It's very hard, I know, But he is not charismatic. He is not a victim. He is not a brave man. He merely is a puppet. And when you understand that critical thinking is so important, and when you critically analyze, the bravest man, the ones trying to stop the war, the weakest men are urging this war to continue by supplying arms to the conflict. Instead of engaging in diplomatic efforts, they want to bring pressure. They want to force people to bow to their desires. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, please support the channel. You can support me on Patreon or buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, which you can find in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.